From its ancient beginnings, tarot has been a useful tool for the sensitive seekers of the world, for the brave among us willing to look deeper, to ask questions about what cannot be seen. But the expedition into the unknown can have webs of minor madness. It's easy to get lost in the answers we seek, and suddenly the tools can become the guides. Welcome to Tarot Noia, a special limited series about navigating the wonders and dangers of online tarot.
Hey, thanks a lot for tuning into Self Mastery. Loving it. So we're talking about the Tarot Noia. I always want to think of the Kink songs. Tarot Noia will destroy ya.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, that's what
Well, it will.
It will destroy you. Definitely.
That,
It almost destroyed me. What about you?
oh, yeah. Addiction is a appropriate word. Becoming addicted to it.
I was addicted to it. And then once it started tapping in my pocketbook, that's when it really started to come together. And I'm talking about every weekend I would buy. And these things are $7 to $10. And you do about 4, that's 40 extra bucks. That's $160 a month for someone to tell you they're coming back in the fold or going to text you. It was very expensive to have someone say this person's going to call me.
Well, we
And
can
again,
get into the levels of gifts that these
but the whole
readers
time
have.
it would have been free just for me to call them and ask them. That's the stupid part about this.
Yeah, but we want that secret. We want that little ace in the pocket, don't we? But I think what's really happening is that subconsciously you knew, forgive me, but subconsciously you knew, just like myself, if you were to ask directly, you're going to get an answer you don't like. So you'd rather hold on to that kind of hidden possibility, because the minute you move it into reality, you have to accept the reality. And let's face it, we were not prepared to in our cases. I'd rather hear the potential than the actual. Right. You don't want, yeah.
Well,
So if you reach out to that person, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't feel that way. You don't want to
sometimes
hear that.
yeah, I know. But sometimes fantasy land is a lot better than reality land, especially in my world. I love telling stories to myself that just are my little stories about the scenarios and situations. I love that shit.
Well, we all do. And again, we got to be careful with that, because the stories you tell create an energy, and then that energy can be picked up by readers. So if you're into that fantasy too much, that reader is just going to pick up on your fantasy, because that's the energy you're putting into the reading.
Now, I don't necessarily know the details of your dark night. I never really asked you, and I frankly, I don't think you really want to tell me. But man, it's
interesting that we call it the dark night of the soul. Let me just say that my dark night extended for about a year and a half. So that can be a bit of a misleading term too, because it can give you the impression that you're going to go through this earth-shaking epiphany type situation and come out the other side like this. Well, the dark night of the soul led me here and it's over. But really is such a long and involved process that calling it the dark night is, I think, very misleading.
yeah, and your night was KNIGHT. That was your
That's
dark night.
right. That's right. But, what it ended up doing for myself is leading me closer to my true heart again. Because what you're actually experiencing is a heart chakra opening in a case where maybe it's been closed for quite some time. And whatever that situation or that person or whatever that precipitated this dark night of the soul, really they're just a key that unlocked the door for your own awareness. They don't even know they have the key. It has
Yeah,
nothing to do with them.
mine was dark months. I think what when you and I discussed it a few times, what was I, about 9 months of torture, self-torture?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for me, it was a long time too, where I started to question everything I've ever known, everything I've ever believed, all of this kind of stuff. But like I say, ultimately, once you reach the end of that kind of resistance, because the dark night of the soul is nothing more than you resisting the call of your own heart. That's really what it is. And most of us don't want to enter into that because it's going to cost us the illusion we've built. I can't leave my career. If I leave my career, what if I take a risk and become a tarot reader and it fails? I can't do that. Even though that's, in my case, where this was leading me to be.
Yeah, and I would have, again, that's when I got into it too.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like people that go through this search for tarot to
Yeah,
get readers, or they become readers.
it's true.
I've noticed anyway.
It
But you're
also
right.
brought me back to certain things I used to love before I closed my heart. Sometimes we close our hearts in the process of living without even being aware of it. And then one day you're like, well, I used to be a dancer. I used to do ballet on a daily basis because it was fun. It fed my soul. It was joyful. Not professionally, right? But it was joyful. When did I stop doing that? When did I close my heart to that? So suddenly for myself, I started at the end of that quote unquote dark night. I started asking myself, well, what is my heart calling out for? It was calling out for me. So one by one, I started to fill that in again and be like, okay, I started my yoga practice. I started dancing again. I started writing again, taking all of that passionate, obsessive energy I was placing on another person and turning it on me instead. And that's where the true breakthrough started to happen in the true development.
Yeah, like for me, 18,000 word journal came from that months.
That's a book.
Yeah. And again, it's never going to be published. It's shit. But the point is, it got me writing. I got to get all that shit out on paper, which was all in my, and then it started my love for writing again.
Yeah. And it
So
doesn't
I'm,
matter if that other person it's not like that other person was a writer and that's why you were attracted to them. They're, like I said, simply a key that helps unlock a door you shut.
do you remember Close Encounters of the Third Kind? It's
Yeah.
like they all got visited by a UFO, and then they went to their art or their talent to kind of cope with it. For instance, he sculpted Devil's Tower. She did watercolors and
Love
that
it.
art. And that's what it kind of reminds me of. It's like it was an unidentified loving object.
Yeah.
and and then it turned out to be an alien that just wanted to kill you.
But that's kind of a good metaphor too, because in some of these quote unquote twin flame situations, that's kind of close to the truth, right?
Oh yeah, like this insectile alien that wants to pick your skull out and suck all the juices. That's what it felt like half the time.
That's intense.
And it
But
was
yeah,
self, but Jordan, it was self-inflicted. All this was self-inflicted, man.
and all that it is us trying to resist our own self responsibility for fulfillment and ultimate development, all that it is us wanting it to belong to another person. If only she'd call, I'd feel better, that kind of thing.
So
But
were
really
you,
that wasn't what your heart was calling for at all.
and you were the same way. If only he would call.
Yes. Oh, yes. If only he would apologize, if only he would acknowledge, if only he would say sorry or whatever, anything. My story changed from week to week, what I needed to happen.
Yeah, what you needed to happen for your
Sometimes I
own
needed him to
story.
call and be like, "You were right. I recognize who you are to me, and let's do this thing." And other times it was a different story.
It was always the different story to me.
Yeah.
I swear. So which gets me to the next thing on this. It's like, okay, so you're in the dark night. You're searching for your reader. You're watching all this tarot. You're going through, you're looking for titling that's going to move you or titling that's going to, I guess, soothe you. So, will you go with long reads, short reads? I know we're in the TikTok era in life. It has to be 30 seconds else people just dump you. I can watch and listen to hour-long podcasts and not be bothered. I like longer forms for me because I can have that attention, but not many people can. How do you see this, the tarotainment aspect of it? Or even Tarot Noia goes with the longer and short reads too.
I find Tarot Noia to increase with the short reads. it's more likely to happen because it's that kind of rapid fire bang, 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 and you're taking in so much info. You can't even keep track of what you're taking in at a certain point. So the reason I don't like well, there's multiple reasons I don't like short form tarot. But let me just preface it by saying that us as tarot readers all have our different gifts. And there are, in my opinion, people who are truly psychic and they don't even really need the cards. They're able to, I don't know how psychic energy works because I'm not psychic. So for myself, there is not a chance in hell I can give you a reading using 2 cards. Never, ever. I just can't because I'm not psychic. I need more info than that. I need more energy to go off of. I need more story. So, and the vast majority of the time, if you're looking at a reading under 10 minutes, you're not getting an intuitive reading. There's not enough time for that. What you're getting is kind of like a daily horoscope you might read in the newspaper. I don't care how talented the reader is. I'm not saying that they're not talented. I'm just saying that format does not allow for really true messaging to come through, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, the fast food tarot, again, the majority of them I see are done by, what are those cards you love so much? Oracle.
Oracles.
Yeah. So you pull an Oracle card, flip it over, read what it says. But yeah, I call that, roulette tarot.
Yeah.
It's just whatever. And does it ever,
Yeah.
it's good. It's fun. It's entertaining. But really, are you going to take that to make your next decision from? I doubt it, or I wouldn't do it. I mean,
Well, if
especially
a
if you're a
TikTok
strategic.
video sorry.
I was going to say, especially if you're a strategic thinker, or you have to strategize your next moves in order to make good decisions in life. And that's what this is all about.
Yeah. What are you really going to get from 30 seconds? Really? It's like, what did we call it? Soundbite. I can't remember the term we used, but it was something like wisdom in a soundbite or something like that, right? It's a
Yeah.
tagline fundamentally. And again, specifically, I'm not going to name any readers, of course, but when I've looked at TikTok videos. Half of the time, what they're doing is reading the definition from a book. You could do that. You could do that for yourself, and it would
Yeah.
probably be more accurate. So I am actually fundamentally, spiritually, and intellectually against that kind of tarot. I don't think it's useful.
Well, in our study, it's not, you're not helping your self mastery if you're doing that.
That's right. I don't
Again,
think it's useful. It may
no,
be entertaining,
it's
but is it
entertaining
useful?
it's fun. Sometimes there's little stickers and funny stuff and shiny objects on it. But our whole goal is about self mastery. It's for you to learn for yourself that you can help yourself in life and not hang on to someone else.
That's right. These are your tools for
Your
your
tools.
use. Yeah. So
Now,
putting that responsibility onto somebody else is not very wise because ultimately, like I said, is it really going to be useful to you? Probably not. I could read my Cancerian horoscope in the newspaper every single morning. Is it really that useful though? Not really.
it to me, they're little lures of hope. It's again, and you got to be honest. You always just cling onto the stuff that's good anyway.
Or in my case, because this is my nature, the negative, which is also not only the truth. Either way, there's a tendency for me to want to cling on to the negative because it's easier to believe for me than
Oh,
the positive. I'd rather be cynical about it. But in doing so, what
miss
am I doing?
optimism.
Yeah, I'm cutting off a potential energy. So when you're listening to tarot, the attitude you come into that reading with is everything. Never mind your reader. If you're
Yeah.
tapping into that reading with desperation, fear, holding your breath, all this kind of stuff, it's not healthy. You're going to bring that energy into the cards. And again, it won't be useful.
There's a rat under my bed, and there's a little green man in my head. And said you're not going crazy, you're just a bit sad, 'cause there's a man in you, gnawing you, tearing you